There are some losses you never completely forget. A person leaves, a relationship changes, a home disappears, your body changes. A future you once imagined quietly becomes impossible. And perhaps the hardest part is not only that something is gone, it is that some part of you still expects it to be there. You look back and think, how could something that felt so real become something I can no longer hold? If you're carrying something like this right now, I'm glad you're here. Welcome to Mindfulness, a space to sit with exactly these questions. The Buddha's teaching on impermanence begins precisely here, not with an abstract philosophy, but with the fact that everything conditioned changes. The people we love change, our bodies change, feelings change, circumstances change. Even the mind that says, "This is who I am," is continually changing. In Buddhist teaching, this is called Anicca, impermanence. And when you begin to understand it deeply, loss is no longer only something that takes from you. It becomes a teacher. Not because suffering is good, and not because you should stop grieving, but because loss can reveal something about attachment, craving, identity, and freedom that ordinary comfort often hides. 1. Loss reveals the truth we prefer not to see. You probably already know that everything changes. You don't need Buddhism to tell you that. You have seen it in your own life. Someone who once called you every day becomes a stranger. A child grows older. A friendship becomes distant. A body that once felt strong begins to slow down. A place that once felt like home changes or disappears entirely. And yet knowing that things change intellectually is very different from seeing impermanence clearly. The Buddha placed enormous importance on this distinction. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha teaches that conditioned things are impermanent. This is not simply a poetic observation about life. It is part of the way Buddhist practice trains the mind to see reality as it actually is. Everything that comes together through conditions is subject to change. This includes what we love, and this is where loss becomes such a powerful teacher. When something is taken away, the mind often says, "This should not have happened." But Buddhism asks a quieter question. Was the thing ever capable of remaining exactly as it was? Consider a beautiful moment. Perhaps you were sitting with someone you loved, feeling completely at ease. You probably did not think, "This moment is conditioned, temporary, and will eventually end." You simply enjoyed it. And there is nothing wrong with enjoying it. The problem begins when the mind silently turns enjoyment into ownership. I need this to remain. This person must always be here. My life must continue in this form. Now impermanence becomes an enemy. But impermanence was never the enemy. It was present from the beginning. The flower did not betray you because it withered. The relationship did not necessarily betray you because it changed. Your youth did not betray you because your body aged. These things followed the nature of conditioned existence. The Buddha's teaching is not that you should become cold because everything ends. It is almost the opposite. When you understand impermanence, you can meet what is here more honestly. You can love someone without pretending you can possess their presence forever. You can appreciate your health without assuming it is guaranteed. You can enjoy a peaceful day without demanding that tomorrow reproduce it. And when something changes, the pain is still real. But you begin to see a deeper truth. The suffering does not come simply from the fact that change exists. Part of the suffering comes from demanding permanence from what is inherently impermanent. This is why Buddhist meditation repeatedly turns attention toward arising and passing. A breath arises and passes. A pleasant feeling arises and passes. A thought appears and disappears. You do not need to force these things away. You simply learn to see their nature. And slowly, something changes in the way you hold your life. You stop asking everything to stay. You begin asking yourself whether you can fully meet something while it is here. That is a very different way of living. Loss may still hurt, but it can teach you to stop confusing love with possession, presence with permanence, and what is beautiful with what must last forever. The first lesson of impermanence is therefore simple. What changes is not necessarily failing. It may simply be revealing its true nature. And once you begin to see that, you are ready to understand the next lesson. 2. The mind suffers when it keeps asking for the past. After a significant loss, the mind often travels backward. You remember the final conversation, the last day, or the moment when everything still felt different. Then the questions arrive. What if I had said something else? What if I had acted sooner? What if I could go back? When something matters deeply, the mind naturally searches for an explanation. But there is a point where remembering becomes another form of struggling with reality. Something has happened, and the mind says, it should not have happened. The event is already in the past, yet internally you continue arguing with it. You replay it, judge it, and create alternate versions of how things might have unfolded. The mind may hope that thinking can somehow change what cannot be changed. The Buddha's teachings offer another way to understand this. Buddhist teachings describe dukkha, often translated as suffering or unsatisfactoriness, as connected with craving and clinging. We want pleasant things to remain. We want painful things to disappear. We want life to follow the conditions we prefer. But life does not obey our preferences. This does not mean grief is simply a mistake caused by attachment. Nor does it mean you should tell yourself to let go whenever you feel pain. There is the painful event itself, and there can be additional suffering created by our resistance to what has already happened. The Salla Sutta in the Sutta Nipata examines painful experience and the mental anguish that can accompany it. It points toward how lamentation can deepen suffering. Perhaps you remember someone and sadness appears. Then another thought arrives. My life will never be good again. Now there is sadness and a story about the future. Perhaps a relationship ended and you feel the absence. Then the mind says, I should have prevented this. There is now pain and self-blame. Mindfulness allows you to notice the difference. You do not have to fight the sadness. You do not have to force yourself to stop remembering. Instead, notice what is actually present. There may be grief, longing, or regret. Let these experiences be known without immediately turning them into permanent conclusions. The past can be remembered without being recreated. You can acknowledge that something mattered without demanding that it return. You can grieve without endlessly arguing with reality. In this way, mindfulness does not erase love or memory. It helps you see them without becoming completely trapped inside them. You can recognize each experience without deciding what it means about your life. This is not passivity, it is clarity. You are allowing reality to be known before mind turns it into an argument. This is one of the quiet lessons of impermanence. The loss may not be something you can change, but the way you relate to the loss can change. Sometimes the first movement toward peace is not making the pain disappear. It is stopping the mind from asking the past to become different. 3. Even your grief is changing. When you are grieving, the feeling can seem permanent. You may briefly forget what happened, then the memory returns. Because grief can return so strongly, the mind may conclude, "This is how I am now. This is how I will always feel." But Buddhist practice asks you to look more carefully. Even painful feelings are changing. In the Buddha's teachings on mindfulness, feeling or Vedana is something that can be known. Feelings may be pleasant, painful, or neither pleasant nor painful. They arise through conditions and they change. It can be observed directly. Sit quietly and notice your body. Perhaps there is heaviness in the chest or tension in the throat. Instead of immediately calling all of it "my grief," observe the experience itself. Does it remain completely still? Does the sensation have exactly the same intensity from one moment to the next? You begin to notice movement. The same is true of emotion. Sadness can intensify and soften. Longing can appear and disappear. Anger can become stronger, then weaker. A memory may feel unbearable one day and different another day. Nothing about this means that the loss was insignificant. It means that the experience of grief is not a permanent object. This is where mindfulness becomes valuable. You are not trying to suppress what you feel. You are learning to see it clearly. When sadness arises, know sadness. When longing appears, know longing. When the feeling changes, know that it has changed. When peace appears, know peace. When it passes, recognize that too. Instead of asking, "How can I make this feeling disappear?" ask, "What is happening right now?" That question creates space. You are no longer fighting the experience, you are observing it. The Buddha's teaching on impermanence becomes compassionate. If painful experiences were permanent, there would be no possibility of change. The fact that feelings arise and pass means that the state you are experiencing now is not necessarily the state you will experience forever. You do not have to rush your grief. You do not have to pretend you are fine. But you can begin noticing that even grief moves. A breath changes, a sensation changes, a thought changes, a feeling changes. And when you see this clearly, loss begins teaching you something important. Pain can be present without becoming your permanent identity. 4. Loss can change your sense of who you are. Sometimes what you lose is not only a person, a relationship, or a circumstance. You lose the version of yourself that existed around it. You were someone's partner, someone's child, a parent, a professional, a caregiver, or simply a person living within a familiar routine. Then something changes, and the question quietly appears: who am I now? Buddhist teachings approach this question in a way that can feel unfamiliar at first. The Buddha did not teach that there is a permanent, unchanging self hidden inside us. In the Anattalakkhana Sutta, he examines the 5 aggregates that make up what we ordinarily experience as a person: form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. These are all subject to change. None can be regarded as a permanent self that remains completely under our control. This does not mean that you do not exist. You still have a name, memories, responsibilities, relationships, and a life unfolding from one moment to another. The teaching is asking you to look more carefully at the idea of a fixed me. Think about who you were 10 years ago. Your body was different, your opinions were different, your relationships were different, your fears and desires may have been completely different, yet you still say, "That was me." But what exactly remained unchanged? Loss makes this question more intimate. Perhaps you once believed, "I am this person's partner." Then the relationship ended. Perhaps you built your identity around a career and that career disappeared. Perhaps your children grew older and the role you once had in their daily lives changed. The mind may say, "I have lost myself," but Buddhist wisdom invites another possibility. Perhaps what you called yourself was never as fixed as you believed. Your body changes, feelings change, perceptions change, thoughts change, intentions change. Consciousness continually knows different experiences. The person you call I is not a frozen object. It is a changing process. This understanding does not require you to reject your history. You can honor who you were without believing you must remain that person forever. You can remember a relationship without making it the definition of your entire existence. You can grieve an old life while allowing a different life to unfold. This is where impermanence can become freeing. You do not have to rebuild the exact identity you lost. You also do not have to immediately invent a new one. You can simply observe what is here now. There may be uncertainty, there may be sadness, there may also be possibilities you cannot yet see. The loss has changed your circumstances, but it does not mean you must become permanently imprisoned by the identity that existed before the change. Buddhist practice invites you to see that everything you call me is changing. And when you stop demanding that an old version of yourself return, you may discover that letting go is not losing yourself again. It is learning not to cling to a self that was never fixed. 5. Remembering death can teach you how to live. There is a subject most people naturally avoid: death. We know intellectually that life ends, but daily life is often organized as though we have unlimited time. Another opportunity always seems to be waiting. Then loss interrupts that assumption. In Buddhist teachings, contemplation of death has an important place. The Buddha encouraged reflection on aging, illness, death, and separation from what is dear. In the Anguttara Nikaya, these reflections appear among subjects to be recollected regularly. They are not meant to create despair. They are meant to weaken heedlessness and bring greater clarity to the way we live. Think about how differently you might treat an ordinary day if you remembered that your time with the people around you is limited. You might listen more carefully, speak with less resentment, and stop postponing gratitude. Impermanence can make ordinary life more precious because the moment cannot be kept. But Buddhist reflection on death goes deeper than appreciating the present. It asks you to examine attachment. If possessions will eventually be separated from you, why cling to them as though they can provide permanent security? If relationships are subject to separation, what does it mean to love without believing you can possess another person's presence forever? This does not mean caring less. It means caring without pretending that care can defeat impermanence. This reflection can also change how you approach your life. You may discover conversations and practices you keep postponing. Remembering death can make later feel less certain. This is why Buddhist teachings place importance on heedfulness. You simply need to remember that your time is limited. That knowledge can encourage you to live more carefully today. There is humility in recognizing that death does not happen only to other people. You too are subject to aging, illness, and death. You too will eventually be separated from what is dear. These reflections may feel uncomfortable, but discomfort can become an invitation to see clearly. Impermanence is not an interruption of life. It is part of life, and perhaps that is why remembering death can teach you how to live, not with fear, but with attention. Not by holding tighter, but by appreciating what is here while it is here. Not by assuming you have endless time, but by using the time you actually have with greater care. 6. Grief does not have to become your permanent home. If you have experienced a deep loss, you may wonder whether healing means forgetting. You may even fear that less pain means less love. The suffering can feel like the last remaining connection. Buddhist teachings offer a different way to look at this. Suffering does not have to become an identity. Releasing suffering does not require rejecting love. The Buddha's teaching does not ask you to become emotionless. In the Salla Sutta, painful feeling is distinguished from additional mental distress that can arise through lamentation and resistance. The teaching does not deny the first pain. It asks us to understand what happens around it. When you grieve, sadness may arise naturally. You may miss someone. You may feel anger, loneliness, or regret. These experiences can be known without turning them into permanent statements about yourself. Notice the difference between saying, "There is sadness," and saying, "I am a broken person." The first recognizes an experience. The second creates an identity around it. You may think, "My life will never feel meaningful again." But that thought is also something that has arisen. It is not necessarily a final truth about your future. You may think, "I cannot be happy because this person is gone." Notice the thought before accepting it as a permanent rule. You do not need to force yourself to become cheerful. Mindfulness can help you stay close to what is happening. When grief appears, know grief. When memories appear, know memories. When the body becomes heavy, know that heaviness. Notice how each experience changes. Over time, you may discover that remembering someone and suffering in exactly the same way are not the same thing. A memory can remain while its intensity changes. Love can remain while grief becomes quieter. The past can remain meaningful without controlling every moment of the present. This is not forgetting. It is allowing impermanence to include your suffering too. Buddhist practice also reminds us that what we do now matters. Loss does not have to become a reason to withdraw from life. It can become a reason to practice greater care. You may speak more gently and become more patient, but do not tell yourself that the loss happened so you could learn a lesson. Buddhism does not require that interpretation. Some losses are simply painful. The wisdom lies in how clearly you meet what remains. You cannot always choose what disappears, but you can learn to meet what remains without clinging to what has changed. Slowly, grief can become part of your understanding rather than the place where your entire life must remain. 7. Letting go does not mean loving less. Perhaps the deepest lesson of impermanence is also the most difficult, learning to let go without becoming cold. If everything changes, what should you hold on to? If people leave, should you stop loving? Buddhist wisdom does not lead toward indifference. It leads toward seeing clearly. You can love someone while knowing you cannot control their future. You can care for your body while knowing it will age. You can appreciate your home while knowing circumstances may change. You can enjoy a beautiful moment while knowing that moment will pass. The difficulty begins when love becomes a demand that reality remain exactly as we want it. We may silently ask life to say, stay healthy, stay close, stay young, stay the same. Do not leave, do not change. But conditioned things cannot obey those commands. This is why the Buddha's teaching on impermanence is connected with suffering and letting go. When we see clearly that something cannot provide permanent security, we can begin to loosen our grasp. This does not mean forcing yourself to release everything. Buddhist practice is about understanding. You notice the body changing. You notice feelings changing. You notice relationships changing. You notice thoughts, desires, circumstances, gain and loss changing. Through careful attention, you begin to see that clinging cannot stop change. It only makes change more painful. This is where mindfulness becomes a path of wisdom. You are learning to observe experience as it arises and passes without immediately trying to possess it or push it away. You begin to understand impermanence through direct experience. And there is something important to remember. You do not need to tell yourself that every loss happened for a reason. Buddhism does not require you to create a comforting story around every painful event. Sometimes loss is simply loss. Someone dies. A relationship ends. A body changes. A circumstance disappears. The wisdom lies in seeing what is actually here and responding without adding unnecessary confusion. So begin with something ordinary. Notice the person you love. Notice your surroundings. Feel your breath. Recognize that this particular moment will not return in exactly the same form. Do not use that thought to frighten yourself. Use it to become present. Listen more carefully. Speak with greater care. Appreciate without grasping. Forgive when forgiveness is appropriate. Stop carrying every old argument as though you have unlimited time to resolve it. Impermanence does not make life meaningless. It reveals that life cannot be possessed. You are not here to make everything stay. You are here to understand what is happening while it is happening, and perhaps that is the deepest lesson loss can offer. Letting go does not mean saying, "I never cared." It means saying, "This mattered. I received it. I loved it. It changed. And now I will learn to meet what comes next without demanding that what has passed return." That is not coldness. It is a quieter form of wisdom. So when loss comes, do not rush to turn it into a lesson. First, allow yourself to feel what is true. Then, when you are ready, look closely. Notice what changed. Notice what you are clinging to. Notice what the mind is asking reality to give back. And remember the Buddha's teaching on impermanence. What arises through conditions will change. You cannot hold everything, but you can meet what is here with mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom. And sometimes, by learning to let go, you discover that peace was never found in making life permanent. It was found in seeing life clearly.